with the added context of watching both movies, I can safely say this all feels like a huge recap of a season we never had. Hello everyone, welcome to the Weeb initiative. I'm your host, the Weeb. This is the show where every other week I'll be talking about anime, manga, and everything in between. This week, following our last episode, I'll be talking about the, last movie that came out of the Wake Up Girls franchise, Wake Up Girls Beyond the Bottom. So, before I start, some disclaimers. Spoiler alert, I'll be talking about most of the things that happened in the movie, and that's basically it. I'll be just talking about this one movie. Last time I talked about the second movie they came out with, that was Wake Up Girls Shadow of Youth, and so this is the sequel for that. It's straight up just a sequel. So that's basically the disclaimers. I'm talking about first the stats. So Beyond the Bottom came out in December 2015, 3 months later than 3 months after Shadow of Youth. It has 53 minutes of runtime. It is done by the same studios, so Ordet and Millipens. I don't actually know how do you pronounce that. And basically same cast and so on and so forth. That being said, let's get to the story. This will be most likely a pretty short review. I don't have much to talk about here, given that the last episode already, I feel like I repeated a lot of stuff, and this time I'll be repeating myself even more, because for the most part, it is, as I said in the intro, this all feels like a recap of a season we never had, because at some point, the same tropes are done here, same as the last movie. So, some rushed scenes, some dialogue that doesn't actually match up well enough. Although I can safely say that all the aspects feel a bit more concise this time around. So, they actually gave it a better go with timing scenes and dialogue. Overall, the whole movie kind of feels a bit better in a way, and for one, some of the things that happen don't actually happen on camera and just on the background, which is, for me at the very least, it's in detriment of the story overall, because you have this feeling that they didn't actually explore some of the plot points and some of the spaces that they could have entered. So just to give context, let's actually get to the story. So basically, Beyond the Bottom starts strictly after the ending of the last movie, where the ending basically, the girls are struggling with their second single released by Bivix, the recording label they signed up with, and so Hayasuka dares them to actually go into the new idol contest and gives them a new song. At this point, I don't actually remember the name of any of the songs really, so sorry about that, but still. So he gives them a song and basically enters them into the idol contest, and with that we have this new song. We have the introduction of this new song really early in the movie as an opening, more or less. And one of the things that they kind of cut off really quickly in the contest and overall is that they kind of give a somewhat weak excuse to not be working in Tokyo anymore, so they come back to Sendai and try to reunite the group as Wake Up Girls truly, because the second single they released was not good, but the first one, Seven Girls War, was really good, and so they are trying to actually, let's say, rebound from this failure and from this flop. And so basically the whole thing kind of starts this way. The girls come back to Sendai, they have this new song, and so they need to actually step their game up and improve their marketing and basically get out there to basically, let's say, get to be known in Japan because they are really local to Sendai, and now that they flopped in Tokyo, they need to actually get more appeal in other regions to actually get a chance in the contest. And basically that's the premise for the movie. The movie goes through this kind of process. It's quite cute in a way, the way that they start working again in lives and training and their different appearances in different regions. First off, let me just quick tangent here. They get a minivan for the 7 of them plus Junko plus Matsuda, and one funny thing that I thought is that they actually have a Toyota product placement in the fucking anime. Like, first, like, I don't know, 10-20 minutes of the whole movie, they have this product placement because the van actually has the real Toyota trademark symbol in the hood. And I just thought, whoa, they got a fucking product placement on this. Like, what? Pretty strange to see it. Not really surprising, but really like, what is this thing? What is this product placement coming? And to be fair, they actually have more product placements for not really products, I think, but I let me rephrase that. I think that maybe the green tea they consume in the movie is a product placement. I don't actually know the trademark, the brand really, but I feel like it is actually trademarked. I think it is actually a product placement, but at the same time they use real places, much like when I talked about Bushido Rock. They actually use real places, like I think it's I don't know if it's a bar or a show bar, something like that, when Junko appears in one of the scenes. But the thing is, they have multiple inserts from the real world here. Not only that, but coming back to the story, right? So the girls, the Green Leaves Productions gets a minivan and they go throughout Japan in multiple regions, going over and doing lives, doing street performances, flyers, merchandise, and so on and so forth. It's a pretty cute montage. The whole thing kind of gets, in a way, it's pretty nice to actually see it. I feel like this one movie was just reserved for the most part, the winning part, because the first movie, the Shadow of Youth, I think it started good, but then it settled on being just the struggle, the low point, and so much so that we stay in the low point in that movie for most of the runtime, and then at the very end we have this bounce back. And now in this second movie, Beyond the Bottom, it is, for the most part, the high point, the second act high point, more or less, where they actually bounce back and actually do work and struggle to... They get their victories. That's the point I'm trying to say. And for the most part, this is... the meat and potatoes of the movie, let's say. The whole thing kind of goes in this way of actually having them doing their stuff again. So they don't actually get to, let's say, restart their career on TV or radio for this part, but they actually get to present in multiple places. There is a really quick scene with some guys. I don't actually know the name of the prefecture, but the guys are basically dressed and they basically talk in, let's say, old Japanese. The guys are dressed as samurai, and the whole thing kind of feels a bit weird. It is just a set piece. I don't actually know if it needed to be there, but it is actually some good, let's say, it's good for the setting because it shows like the girls working with different people and so on and so forth. So much so that at one point they go as invited guests, more or less, in a live concert of a rival group from the first contest. So it is good to see that they never forgot any of their previous contests, and also because it feels a bit more fluid for the story. It feels more organic the way they try to weave these people back in the story, just as guests and apparitions, more or less. It is pretty okay in that regard. Then the girls are basically trying to get the contest going. They have multiple parts, and this is really quick in a way. It feels really quick. They have a lot of montages. The whole, as I already said, this movie is pretty short, 53 minutes only. It has they have to cram a lot of stuff in. And as I said, it feels like a recap because for the most part, some of the important bits, let's say, are made off camera. So for one example, there is this one part, and this is a thing the first movie kind of hinted at, and now we just see the result. We don't actually see the struggle of the characters really, but there is this one thing that's happening inside I1, that is this competition between possible centers, between Shiho, who appeared in the first season, and I think it's Mocha, the name of the new one. And basically there's this competition, and by a margin of 100 CDs, because they basically made the same CD but with different versions. So one version had Mocha, one version had Shiho, and Mocha wins by a margin of 100 CDs, which I would say 100 CDs when we're talking about the quantities going beyond like 500k. So it's 501k 100 and 100, let's say. I don't, it's something really benign, let's say. The margin, the difference between them is really small considering the overall number. So I would say it's margin of error. You could say that nobody won, and it's pretty within, like, it's basically the same number. That's I'm trying to say. It is not grounds to actually fire Shiho for what's worth, but they end up firing Shiho, and basically we just get this scene where I don't actually remember the name of the boss of I1, but he's talking with Shiho, and basically she's fired, but not really fired. She's just like demoted to a town in the more countryside of Japan, much like Sendai. So she goes to Hakata, I think it's the name of the prefecture, and she has to basically center upcoming I1 branch group, let's say. I don't actually know the betweens. I don't actually think they really touch on this, but it is basically she's still in the same company working for the same, let's say, overall group, but she's now heading a new unit called Next Storm, I think. And the scene where she actually goes and introduces herself to the members, and seeing how the members actually were inspired by her to become idols, it's kind of cute. I have to give the anime this, that it is in a way well made, and at the very least a story, right? And for the most part, they basically start this new group in countryside prefecture, much like to directly compete with Wake Up Girls, because it's more like Wake Up Girls has Mayu, who was one center of I1 at some point, and she has success with Wake Up Girls as group based in a countryside prefecture, and so she basically is injected into this new unit to actually do the same thing, more or less. It feels like this. The context is a bit fuzzy. They don't actually give many explanations for much of this stuff, but either way. And aside from that, right, we go back to Wake Up Girls, where they actually find this out. There is a huge news cycle about this, and so on and so forth, and the whole thing kind of goes from there. So the contest starts running, the girls present, they go to the regionals, they actually get the region, and so they go to the finals. And to go to the finals, then we reach a new struggle, new conflict, let's say, because first there are basically two conflicts, but one is easier to explain than the other. The first one is, I don't know why they did it. I think it was just to add conflict to this movie specifically, because if it was all wins, probably they would think it would be too boring. I personally don't think that, but still, there is this one scene where Minami, who I talked about in the first season, that her arc basically came and went really quickly with no explanations. So they bring that back up, that the fact that she was working now with Wake Up Girls as an idol, but her dream was to be accepted in a grandiose music school, and so to work better as an idol, she chose to pause her piano lessons and ballet lessons to actually work as an idol. And at one point, her father comes in the picture to basically ask her about it and basically pressure her into going back to training the piano and actually getting to this prestigious school. And the whole thing kind of works the way you probably think it would. She falls under the pressure. She delays a lot in talking about quitting. There's this whole thing where Airi comes in as the one to soften her up, to actually talk to her about it and find out that she wants to quit, and basically she has to quit really, really close to the same date, because the application, the entry exam for the school is the same day of their finals. I'm pretty sure it's the finals, and so there's this whole thing where they need to actually, she basically announces this really close to the date, and so the whole thing kind of gets messy. Now pause that, let's go to the other conflict. So at some point when the girls find out that they are going to the finals, they need a new song. So they have this song that we had in the first movie that they are using to present, but then they want Hayasaka to actually compose a new song for them. It would be like the third real song from them, but then he refuses because he doesn't want them to depend on him, and he wants them to actually find someone else to make the song, to then prove to him that they can pull their own weight. And in a way, this is kind of messed up because he is really pretentious at this point, because he basically assumes that their whole success because of him. And in a way, the whole series at this point, until this point, has kind of said that. So it's a weak excuse, but it comes out smoothly, let's say, because it's at this point you can not like prove him wrong. But I felt like this was really pretentious and really weak as an argument. Either way, so in between that, so they can't have Hayasaka to compose a new song, but then they actually need it, and so they try to scramble. So Junko asked Twinkle, the girls who actually composed the first song from the first movie, that they sang back in the first movie, and they cannot because they are organizing their new tour across Japan, so they can't actually spare the time to compose a new song. So that's off the table. And then Junko we get this introduction of, I don't actually remember her name at this point, sorry, but basically it is one of Junko's ex-colleagues, as we already know from the context given in the Shadow of Youth movie, that one of her acquaintances was on the hospital, and besides that, she was a member of a idol group way back when. And so there is this whole thing where they actually have a few scenes together, Junko and this new acquaintance. I'm sorry, I don't actually remember her name right now. That they hint at the fact that when Junko went away at the end of the first movie and beginning of the first season, when she went away with all that money, it was not because she went away with some kind of lover or something, but actually she took the money to pay for treatment for this one friend, colleague, and doing that, paying that amount, basically got them out of the hospital and actually working again. And she still works with music and so on and so forth. I don't actually remember if they talk about why she was in the hospital in the first place, but that's not important really for the overall thing of the movie. The thing is, at this point, Hayasaka's out, Twinkle's out. Junko asks her, as someone that still works with music and stuff, to compose a song for Wake Up Girls, because she was the original composer for the group they had back then. And so basically pay up the favor. I paid for your treatment. I don't want money. Just compose me a song. And so she goes there, composes a song, watches the group presenting, gets this really hype, really good feeling about them. It really reminds her of when they had their own idol group, and it is in a way, it's not really a grandiose scene, it's not something really special, but it feels, and I'm giving the movie way too much credit for this, but in a way, I think it was a really good scene because it feels so much like the audience. In a way, it feels so much like the general response when you see idols like really getting together and doing their stuff. It's really nice, really cathartic, really wholesome in a way. It felt good. The scene is not that special, but still something to talk about. Then the whole thing kind of goes in a way that she composes a song, they go to the finals with the song. I don't actually know the name of the song whatsoever, but then we go back to Minami's struggle with abandoning Wake Up Girls to apply to this music school. And so we have this whole kind of scene where with the new song composed, the girls rehearsed and everything ready, she announces that she's quitting. As of right now, the whole thing kind of, everybody, like, it is kind of a shock, but everybody takes it well because it is what it is. And it's not really like this is not the environment where people would be like entering fights for this. Let's say the whole tone of the anime doesn't allow that, and the whole thing kind of, they try to spice it up and make everybody cry and so on and so forth, but the way that this anime works, for the most part, it is so predictable that you know that it is nothing to worry about because she will come back. And I thought with myself, like, boy, if she didn't come back, I would be really surprised. It would be actually something shocking to see her not, because the one thing that you would expect at this point is to her to basically come back and say, never mind, I changed my mind and so on and so forth. And talk of the devil, she actually does that. The scene, they have a scene, they are airport where she basically just appears out of nowhere and just says, yeah, I chose you guys, I will try the other thing another time and whatever. And so conflict resolved. It's really like, I don't know why they added that kind of conflict here, really. It's really pointless and really predictable, but still the whole thing kind of works out. They present we see actually a bit of an insert of one of I1's songs with Shiho as the center when she's with her new unit, and there's this whole thing, the preparation for the concert, the whole, like, they scrambling together to actually hype themselves up. I think it's really cute the way they do it. They go with the Wake Up Girls and beat their feet. It's really like, it's really cute that the whole thing kind of feels right. Reminds me a lot, and this is me personally. I don't know if anyone else will have this kind of reaction, but it feels really close to Cinderella Girls in a way. I don't know. Every time I see that, the one thing that reminds me of it's Cinderella Girls, the Mashiro Pro. Oh. But that aside, right, the whole thing kind of goes from there. So they present, there's the insert song, it's pretty nice, and this is the thing, I'll try not to spoil it, but anyone that has been following what I'm been saying knows where this ends. But the thing is, we have when they start singing we have like 1.5 minutes of actual animation, and then credits roll without any animation. The whole screen is black and just credits, and with 20 seconds remaining for the end of the movie, we have this one still shot, and that's the end of the movie. That's basically it. And that's about it for the story, really. So, to my opinion, just to really hammer this home, and then we can go to the last entry next episode when we talk about Wake Up Girl's new chapter. This whole movie just give me more context of how this whole thing was made. In a way, I can't really, it's my speculation. It is, let's say, not something that I can confirm for real, and I don't know if there's something confirming this kind of stuff. But just to be clear here, right, both movies, The Shadow of Youth and Beyond the Bottom, they have this thing where they were made as one movie and then the sequel, because they have one singular story that they want to actually talk about. This whole arc with the girls going to Tokyo and coming back to Sendai, basically going to Tokyo, failing, flopping, and then coming back to Sendai where it's their home and they can actually grow back up. And I think in a way, and it is the overall feeling that I leave this movie with, is that this feels way too much like a recap. It feels like I have already watched the original season and then this is a recap, because it feels so cramped. The whole story, the whole of the plot points, the plot spaces that they don't actually show on camera. The whole thing with I1, the struggle of Shiho and Mocha with their battle, and the whole of the competition between selling and stuff. I feel like they could have done a whole spin-off just about that, in a way. If they wanted to stretch it, I think in most ways they could have done multiple episodes with this. We could have 12 episodes more of this. I don't actually understand why this was just 2 movies. It feels so... First, it feels cramped in the story, the plot. I feel like it doesn't sit right with how this series has been going. The first season, it may have had its shortcomings in many ways, and some things that I criticize a lot, but in a way, the story, the plot that they are trying to tell with these 2 movies, it feels like I wish we had a whole season for this. This was actually good content for a whole season. I didn't need 2 hours between 2 movies to watch this. I wanted like the whole, let's say, 6 hours of animation to actually go through the whole thing where we have the girls going to Tokyo. First episode goes well until the ending that something goes wrong, and then we have, I don't know, 4 episodes of struggle, 3 episodes of struggle, then the whole thing with Junko, the whole thing with I1, and then the bounce back at the end when they go like, yeah, we can do it. And then through the 6th episode forward, we have the second movie where we see the girls going back to Sendai, they growing back up, they going through Japan, presenting and doing stuff, and the weird little things that they could add in that I would accept filler in that instance just because. And the whole thing kind of feels really underdeveloped in a way, that given that these are 2 movies. And this is the thing with all of this. It feels like they didn't actually explore all their resources. I feel like the girls are so underutilized at the end of the day. It feels like they don't, even though they are like the center of the story, it feels like they don't actually have that much dialogue between them. It doesn't build that connection. It doesn't, like, I don't know any of the girls at the end of the day. I know their struggles, their basic struggles, but more than that, I can't really say. And it feels weird in that way. And that aside, let's talk about another thing. And following the whole series, there is this group of otakus now, led by Ota-san, that is the main otaku for Mayu. So she's Hizoshi, and it is in this movie, as this is all wins for Wake Up Girls, they go really hard with the otakus. It's really nice. They set up a fan club. They do the same fucking gag in the restaurant again. And I feel like it's okay. because that's one gag that at this point it's not that funny, but it is like so much intrinsic to them that it would feel weird to not get it. So much so that there is a second scene at some point that it felt kind of strange that they didn't get like told to quiet the fuck down. And at the same time, right, they have this whole hype around the girls when they actually start growing back up and being noticed by other parts of Japan. It is really nice to see the scenes where they could go into the chat room and just the guys like hyping up for Wake Up Girls, and it's really fun. It feels, as I already said in many other instances, they feel like the audience, and in a way when the girls are winning, it's really nice, really good. It feels like an insert for the audience, and in a way that is really good. Now, talking about the music, I think that the two new songs that they present in this movie are really good. I would say maybe better than Seven Girls War. That would need to actually be tested. I think the last song I didn't actually like that much, but the second one is pretty good. The insert for I wish I had the full song here. I don't actually know the name, so I can't really judge it, but it sounded okay. I don't know, with 1 minute of song, I feel it's nice. Now, talking about animation, I feel like the animation's the same, really nothing to write home about and really serviceable, though the art style feels like they kind of changed it towards the end. I don't actually know if I'm right. It became kind of weird, some of the... and in a way, this is because of the art style and not really the animation, but both things like interfering in this. There are some weird frames towards the end of the movie when the girls are discussing, I think mostly Minami's quitting and some other stuff later on, but for the most part the girls dancing is really well made. I think it's all 2D for the most part. They have this really, and again, this was made in 2015, and so the whole thing had a using metrics of today to actually judge something of yesteryear is a bit of a cheap shot, because nowadays we have it so much better in many facets of animation. But at the beginning, very beginning of the movie, they have this penny shot of the entrance for Greenleaf's Productions, and it is so, oh my god, it's kind of bad, you know. It felt kind of weird. I was kind of spooked if they really use that much 3D right at the beginning. Like, I hope they don't use that much. And to be fair, they didn't use it. Was just one weird shot. But anyways, the animation in general is pretty okay. The art style feels like they changed it a bit, but I don't know. It could just be me. Basically reverted back to the first season, and that was not great. The scene where the girls are crying because Minami is quitting is debatable whether the implementation's well done or not. I would say it sits in the 5 out of 10 if I would like number it. And that's basically it. One odd thing about sound really that I want to touch on is that at some point some of the, and I would not say voice acting really, but some of the recording for, I think one of the, I can't really pinpoint right now which scene it was, but one of the voices they record for one of the characters, and when the girls are actually presenting on the stage, there are some artifacts, and I think they added in post, even though I think they are truly unnecessary. They didn't need to actually do that. The voice one, I think it was not added. I think that's an actual error, but the one in the stage, I think they added on. I don't know why they did it, but still just something to like nitpick on. I think it's just, it's so quick that you might not notice it, but to me kind of broke a bit of my suspension of disbelief, let's say. And for the most part, this movie is okay. In hindsight, I would prefer to watch both movies back to back, but that's not how things worked out. And to be fair, this series is pretty short. The whole movie is pretty short overall, so I think like this is an okay review given their strengths. And for the most part, would I recommend it? Difficult to say, really. At this point, I couldn't wholeheartedly recommend this, and I would just say that if someone is actually going straight for idols and not music overall, but idols specifically, and want something akin to Idolmaster and Love Live, this I feel like would be the closest thing, but the let's say the gravitas between the three is really hard to compensate for. I think there are different leagues, and that's not to like disparage the work that the guys over at Ordet and Millepens did on this series, but it's just the kind of thing that they landed on their results, and it kind of feels on different leagues. It's not really a problem with their efforts. It's more that the junction of all the things, investment from Bandai Namco may actually have something to do with it. I'm just saying, they have a lot of money. And with that said, before I start rambling more on, thank you guys for listening, thank you guys for watching. Please like, please share, please follow, depending on the platform you're in, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.